up, everybody? Welcome back to The Progenitor. This is the show where we go over a director's entire filmography, talking about themes, shots, pacing, and give a brief review, all within 30 minutes, hopefully. So let's get started. Just to give you some insight, I did take a bit of a hiatus, but I'm back and better than ever. If you don't remember, we are going over the filmography of Ridley Scott, and of course, this podcast does have spoilers, so just be aware. But next up, modern times again. None of that opening scrolls or anything where it's talking about what period we're in or if there's replicants or if there's aliens or whatever. No, this is just drops you right into the Washington, D.C. area. This is just straight into action in a courthouse. I have to admit, the first 10 minutes of this movie feels exactly like a Tony Scott movie with the quick cutting, the camera's always moving, and the opening credits zipping past the screen. Zoom! It made me think of Enemy of the State or even Spy Games, just sexier and more legalistic. So this film that we're watching today, or that we've already seen, is G.I. Jane. And it dives into particularly murky areas such as gender politics in the military. Of course, this would further be exacerbated by LGBTQ rights later on, but that has nothing to do with this film. So for now, this movie is just about whether women should be fighting next to men, especially in elite forces like the Navy SEALs, which is kind of the basis of the film. Now, the movie is quite entertaining and energetic, but there are a few parts where, this movie was definitely directed by a man, especially random shots of wet, sweaty bosoms covered by loose white fabric and wet white fabric, wet t-shirts and butt shots throughout. Now, what I mean by butt shots is, let's say someone's doing a push-up. Well, you're not getting the shot of the side view. You're getting the shot from above where you see her butt. Yep, that is the case. And although I must say I really enjoyed Demi Moore's performance in this film, and she's great in her portrayal of the headstrong Lieutenant Jordan O'Neill. This movie wasn't very critically acclaimed, so not many other critics thought that, especially since at the end of the year, she won the Razzie Award for Worst Actress for her performance in this film. And I must say that is a gross no, she was not the worst actress. She was actually very believable. The only parts of this film that I think detract from her performance is basically those training montages, basically, where she's actually doing all these workouts in skimpy outfits, shorts, tank tops that are wet from sweat, stuff like that. Another cast member, Viggo Mortensen, was also nominated for Worst Fake Accent at the 1997 Stinkers Bad Movie Awards, which I've never even heard of. Maybe it got tied into the Razzies later on, but I have never heard of Stinkers Bad Movie Awards. Maybe that's just someone's own personal joke. I have no idea, but that was on Wikipedia, which I get all of my information from. Maybe I should go to IMDb next time. Who knows? Who cares? So the good thing is he did not win. He actually lost to Jon Voight, and that was Jon Voight's year for Anaconda and Most Wanted. I don't know what Most Wanted was, but Anaconda was a pretty awesome movie, if I remember it clearly as a child, especially since Jennifer Lopez was in it, and I think she had some wet t-shirts in that film too. I mean, let's go back to Viggo, guys. Come on, Viggo, he's going to redeem himself later in Lord of the Rings as Aragorn, or even any of his Cronenberg films like History of Violence, or of course Eastern Promises, where he got his Oscar nomination. And he's even great in A Dangerous Method, which was kind of a small performance. But yeah, honestly, I enjoyed his performance a lot, and he is a very dedicated movie actor and really dives into it. So I'm not exactly sure what accent he was going for in this film, but hey, if you ask me, the performance all around was great. And so altogether, this movie is pretty good, but it's not on the level. It's not on the level of Thelma and Louise. And for military films, it's not on the level of one we're going to talk about in, I think, 3 or 4 movies. 3, I believe, Black Hawk Down, which is a damn near classic. This one is just kind of subpar, kind of going back to the whole Black Rain. It's a good B movie, but they're trying to do too much in this short amount of time. So all in all, I loved all the performances, the overall energy, and the direction of the film, but this is not a grade A Ridley Scott film. Now, let's get into those credits, shall we? So, of course, directed by Ridley Scott. It was produced by Ridley Scott. This is actually the second film that has the Scott-free banner on it. The Scott-free is Ridley Scott and Tony Scott and the whole family's studio production banner. And the film was also produced by Roger Birnbaum. Now, he produced Rush Hour, Shanghai Noon, Celtic Pride, and this movie is kind of weird because it is definitely not a comedy. Next producer is Demi Moore, which strangely she produced the Austin Powers trilogy, like all 3 films. I don't know how she got into that. And finally, Susan Todd. Now, Susan Todd is interesting because she produced Memento. She also produced Austin Powers. And she produced one of my childhood favorite films, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. So next up, we have the screenplay by Danielle, Alexandra, and David Twohy. I'm not sure how to say his last name, but Danielle Alexandra appears to only have this screen credit. I'm not sure. I didn't really do a deep dive into her, but on Wikipedia, her name wasn't clickable. So obviously, there's not much to go off of. And David Twohy, for those who know, he wrote and directed the entire Chronicle or Riddick, the Riddick series. So he's definitely in deep with sci-fi. Although this film has nothing to do with sci-fi, but yeah, he has done sci-fi films in the past. The music is by Trevor Jones, most notably The Last of the Mohicans composer, one of the greatest soundtracks ever. I love that soundtrack. And the cinematography was by Hugh Johnson. Now, Hugh Johnson reteamed with Ridley Scott on this film after his work on White Squall. He also shot The Chronicles of Riddick, and he has a deep history with Ridley Scott. We'll get into that in a little bit based on the Ridley Scott collaborations. We're going to get back to that. And the film was finally edited by Pietro Scalia. Now, you better remember that name because it's going to keep popping up repeatedly and repeatedly after that. And he's a very, very prestigious editor, and he continues to work with Ridley Scott in future films. So we will get into that in a little bit. Now, we're going to get into the cast. Now, I did not do any studies on this cast. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to pull up my Letterboxd account, and we're going to go to G.I. Jane. Now, of course, everyone knows Demi Moore, and I'm just going to be that guy, striptease. Although I remember watching that as a kid. Not a kid, maybe a teenager on Showtime. And I remember back in the day in Showtime, my parents put up parental controls, and somehow my sister and I, actually more my sister, found out how to break that parental control. So we ended up one night watching striptease. And I don't remember anything except for the stripping. I don't know the story. I do remember Burt Reynolds was in it. But okay, anyways, Demi Moore was in Striptease, A Few Good Men, and one of my favorite romantic, whatever you want to call them. It's not a comedy, but Ghost. What a great movie. Then you got Viggo Mortensen. Oh, like I said, Aragorn, Lord of the Rings, History of Violence. He was even in The Road, Eastern Promises. Dude, this guy's been in 67 films, and he's great in this movie. I love him. Now, next up, Anne Bancroft. Now, she is a living legend. She was in The Graduate, The Elephant Man. Dude, this lady was married, was married to married to Mel Brooks. And she's in all these classic movies, and she's beautiful in this film, and she's elegant, and she still has that screen presence that we're going to see throughout her career. She's always so powerful in every role she does, and she's hamming it up in this movie. She's great in this movie. Next up, we got a dude named Jason Begg. Now, I got that from Wikipedia, but Jason Begg, we're going to look at him through Letterboxd, and he was in Going Clear Scientology. Oh, I remember there is something about him being a big part of Scientology at one point, and now he's kind of going against it for he did some whistleblowing or something like that. I don't want to get into it because I didn't research it personally, but he was in Thelma and Louise. What are you doing there? I don't remember that. Maybe I should not go back and research this, but oh, he was a state trooper. Okay. And he was also in X-Men First Class, one of my favorite X-Men movies. Then you got Jim Cavizio. Come on, Jesus. He was in The Passion of the Christ. It says he was in The Rock, but I don't remember who he was. Thin Red Line, one of the all-time best movies ever directed by Terrence Malick. Count of Monte Cristo. This guy has this intensity in his eyes, and he continues to work with the Scott brothers, mainly Tony Scott. He did Deja Vu with Tony Scott. Then you got Morris Chestnut. I haven't really seen that many movies from him, but hey, looks like he did a Tony Scott film, The Last Boy Scout, which is a really great movie. And this cast is pretty stacked, but let's move on, shall we? We're going to go to Ridley Scott collaborations. All right. So this is now a new segment where we're going to go through all the movies and see how they all tie together in terms of crew, maybe even cast. Like I mentioned, Jason Begg was in Thelma and Louise as the state trooper. So we're going to start to tie in certain things, but mainly I want to look at the crew, basically looking how he's developing his style, his pacing, and his imagery, right? So again, like I mentioned, Hugh Johnson, this is his third film working with Ridley Scott. He was the DP for White Squall. Now, if you remember that, there's a lot of water scenes, and this film is about Demi Moore joining the Navy SEALs group, doing SEALs team training. So there's a lot of water in here too. You got some of that slow motion shooting in the water as well. And then you have the editor. Oh, wait, let me go back to Hugh Johnson though, because he goes back. Okay, he goes back to the first film with Ridley Scott. Now, he was the clapper loader on The Duelist, and then later on, he became the second unit director of photography on 1492, Conquest of Paradise, as well as the second unit director. And he will work on a future Ridley Scott film, which we will return to. Now, as another collaborator that's starting up is Pietro Scalia. Now, he's the editor of this film, and he'll become a bigger part of Ridley Scott's filmography. And what you really get from him is more energetic cutting on action. Just everything is moving much more quick in anything he edits. Whereas a lot of the previous films are a little more, not slow, but they're more moody, and they have a certain sort of energy, but it's more methodical rather than Pietro Scalia, who is more energetic in his cutting. So now we go to Wife's Corner. Now, I promise you guys sooner or later I will have her on the podcast. I'm sorry, it will have to be later, but honestly, we watched this movie a month ago, I believe, so I don't really remember what she thought. All I do remember is she enjoyed it, but she thought the Navy SEAL teachers, including Viggo Mortensen, their shorts were too short. So when you have a movie where the main thing that pops out in your head is the shorts are too short, the shorts are too short, well, that might be a problem in itself. Now, let's get into the themes, folks. All right. First up, empowered female characters. Ding, ding, ding. You got it. Demi Moore and Anne Bancroft as they fight for women's rights in the military. And these two are powerhouses. Like I said, Anne Bancroft is kind of hamming it up, but Demi Moore is totally, totally dedicated in this role. She's doing freaking one-armed push-ups. Okay, like I said, the Razzie Awards, great, whatever. I don't understand anything that they're talking about in regards to this performance because it's a great performance. Now, I don't know about her winning Best Actress at the Academy Awards, but she was great in this film. Next up, nature space is a hostile and uncontrollable environment. Ding, ding, ding. Nature, yes, there are a lot of oceans and deserts in this film. On top of that, there's violence in the deserts, but in the ocean, anything could happen. You could drown in the water, and this is all happening while they're training. And the desert is one final rescue mission that, you could die from heat, or you could just die from bullets from terrorists. Either way, it's still dangerous. And then the most dangerous is Washington, D.C., because you got all these political liars and everyone trying to get what they want, right? So that's always there. Next up, the only way to survive is to adapt. Ding, ding, ding. See, Demi Moore's character throughout the film, she's saying she wants to do it with no special treatment, but everyone thinks she can't do it without special treatment, so they treat her specially until one day she's just like, fuck this, I'm going to go to my commander-in-chief, or commanding officer. So she goes to him and she's like, you got to cut this out. I don't want preferential treatment. And from that point on, all the soldiers start to respect her because they see that she's doing everything that they can do, right? And there's nothing that is, she's not getting any freebies. So I think that that's a really good survival tactic, that she wanted to adapt to the environment and just survive through that way. Number 4, age does not mean a thing. Ding, ding, ding. The old commanding officer and Anne Bancroft, they don't really do much in this movie. But then you have these youthful soldiers, they're fighting to survive. And even G.I. Jane, or Demi Moore's character, her name's not even Jane or G.I. Her name is Jordan. So I don't know why it's called G.I. Jane. It should be G.I. Jordan or something. Anyways, the point is, all the youthful soldiers, the ones in training, they actually end up doing a lot and saving Viggo's life. Especially Jordan saves her commanding officer's life, or her teacher's life, Viggo's life. So let's move on. Do not trust rich people. Ding, ding, ding. And Bancroft's character is rich, and so are all the politicians in this movie. And guess what? They all backstab each other. And what happens is they put Demi's character through a whole media frenzy, and it drives her crazy. It also gets her kicked out. It gets her kicked out of the class that she almost was about to pass. And then she gets kicked out for some kind of media frenzy about people she hangs out with. At one point, people point out that she might be a lesbian, and it ruins her chances. These politicians are so full of shit. So, yeah, do not trust rich people. Because the funny thing is, Anne Bancroft's character, she was fighting to get women in the military. That was her goal. But at the end of the day, there's something more that she wanted. And I don't really remember what it was, but it definitely gave her more media attention. You know what I mean? So that's there. Number 6, violence don't solve a thing, brains do. Ding, ding, ding. Yep, Demi does a lot of strategizing throughout this movie. She plans ahead. But the thing is, when the men don't trust her, they go over her leadership and they get screwed. So then she has to think of another situation to get them out of the predicaments that they're in. And this happens 3 or 4 times throughout the movie. Happy wife, happy life. Not so much, because she's not really married. She does have a significant other, played by Jason Begg, as mentioned before. But, all she's really looking for is someone who supports her decision. And at the end of the day, Jason Begg does support her decision, but is also telling her to take care of herself because he does care for her, and he sees that she's kind of being used as a pawn in this political game. So he's also trying to feed her advice at the same time. Number 8, distrust of authority. This ding ding ding, it goes back to the whole rich people thing. You can't trust politicians, folks. They always got an agenda on top of their agenda. So that's the main thing. Money is coveted. Ding ding ding. You got it. Politicians are always talking about budgets and all that stuff, especially during this movie. It's all a game to them. Give them money, give them your support. They'll do stuff for you, quote unquote. Yeah, bullshit. They're going to do whatever they can to keep in power. Anyways, Battle of the Sexes. Ding, ding, ding. Yep, this whole movie is men versus women until it's not at the end. And at the end, everyone comes together. Thank God. And Demi Moore's character proves that she can fight just like the best of them. Finally, number 11, do not trust robots/androids. Technically, there are no robots and no androids in this film, but you could say that Viggo starts out as a robot, then he learns how to respect women and other people. Anyways, now let's move on to the next part of the podcast. We are going over my favorite shots. Ready? At 30, I don't even know what this is. 36 seconds, I think. This is the first time you see the Scot-Free logo zooming in and the Washington Monument. And all of a sudden, I'm already thinking Enemy of the State or Spy Games. I think it's just a really cool opening credit with that bombastic soundtrack going on in the back. Now, 4 minutes and 19 seconds. It's just a shot of Anne Bancroft, and she smirks for the first time. And you're going to learn to love this smirk. And every time I say smirk, there should be like some kind of drinking game because there's 3 more smirks going on. But hey, I'm going to leave that up to you. 8 minutes and 1 second. Guess what? And Bancroft smirks again. She smirks because she's choosing candidates. Now, what happens is they've got a list of ladies and pictures of the ladies. And the first 2, she's like, wow, are you sure these are women? And then finally she sees Demi Moore's picture and she's like, all right, we could do that. Now, 12 minutes and 10 seconds. Is this a bit of a nip slip in a bathtub? I'm not sure, but it's close. So that's me just being a perverted guy. And, just pointing out, do you really need this kind of scene in this movie? You probably could have staged this around a dinner or something, but instead, Jason and Demi are in a bathtub. So they're kind of just taking a bath together, and then she's moving forward towards him, and then I think maybe her left boob pops out of the soap suds or whatever. Anyways, 22 minutes and 49 seconds. This is the first shot of Viggo's short shorts, so take a look at that. 34 minutes and 25 seconds. This is Viggo standing over Demi while she's writing 500 words on why she loves the Navy. At 44 minutes and 33 seconds, now this is a really cool lighting occurring in the commanding officer's office. Demi Moore has come to his office to complain that she believes everyone is treating her with preferential treatment, and she's tired of it. And the lights that are shining in, this shot appears in every one of Ridley Scott's films up to now, where it's kind of just shadows and then just a light shining in the background through the windows. And it reminds me of Black Rain a lot, actually. Next up, 47 minutes and 2 seconds. Demi gets a shaver and shaves her head right there. 54 minutes and 25 seconds. The workout montage begins. 55 minutes. You got a shot of her butt. Why? Again, do you really need a workout montage other than to show that Demi Moore is sexy and strong? I don't know. Couldn't she have done it with other soldiers? I mean, you could have objectified everyone. I think that would have been maybe a little better. 55 minutes and 23 seconds. One-handed push-up. I have to tell you, that is impressive. 55 minutes and 27 seconds, overhead shot of Demi Moore's body as she's getting up from that push-up. 55 minutes and 32 seconds. Now this is a further training montage where they're in the water now, and they're just hitting the waves on a boat. They're trying to carry this raft, and they're hitting the waves, and it's kind of like one of those slow-mo shots that you see throughout Ridley Scott's career, especially in the water movies like 1492 and White Squall. You always have the slow-mo in the water, like the water waves are hitting them. 58 minutes and 11 seconds. Winks after finishing gun training. Okay, Demi puts together a machine gun and winks at one of her classmates. And that's the exact moment when she winks. 1 hour, 1 minute, and 25 seconds. Demi is in the shower. And Viggo walks in at 1 minute, 2 seconds. He starts telling her the story of how he got his Purple Heart medal. And basically, he carried a 240-pound dude out of a burning tank. So, and he's like, could you do that? And Demi says, I don't know. I'm going to get dressed. Fuck off. You know, it's kind of like that. 1 hour, 19 minutes, and 20 seconds. Viggo gets kicked in the balls. So what's happening here is Demi's whole crew is in a training session, and they're supposed to break into this camp. But a couple of the soldier guys decide not to listen to Demi and get caught. And she sacrifices herself and the rest of her team to protect them, pretty much. And Viggo is being a dick and trying to make it as quote unquote realistic as possible. So he's like taking off her pants and preparing to rape her. And instead, Demi kicks him in the balls. And that is directly at 1 hour, 19 minutes, and 20 seconds. 1 hour, 55 minutes, and 13 seconds. It's a slow-mo shot of Demi running back to pick up Viggo. Now, what's happening in this scene is the group, like the Navy SEALs, are set up to go on a quick mission to protect some other soldiers. And they get ambushed, kind of, and Viggo gets shot. And now they got to save everyone. So Demi saves Viggo, pulls him out. Now, an hour, 59 minutes, and 42 seconds, an hour, 59 minutes, and 44 seconds, you have Demi smirks and Viggo smirks. They smirk at each other because they've learned to respect each other. That's double smirks for you. And then, yep, that's it. Now, this movie is, let me see, I believe it's like 2 hours. But yeah, I don't know if you can hear me typing, but I'm typing, guys. And I'm going directly to Wikipedia. And it's about 2 hours and 4 minutes. Now, do I think it could have been cut down? Yeah, it definitely could have been cut down to directly 2 hours. And instead of doing all those montage scenes, just do a group shots, okay? Everyone's working hard. Anyways, now, next week, you have one of my all-time favorites and my favorite Ridley Scott film. I mean, come on. Alien and Blade Runner, actually, they're all tied for favorite, but next up, we got Gladiator. Now, I don't know where you can see this for free. I have it on Apple iTunes, and I have the Blu-ray because I'm crazy about this movie. I already watched it, but I gotta watch it again because I watched it a month ago, and that makes me sad. But everyone, go find it, watch it. Let's go over it next week. All right? Okay, guys, thanks for listening, and have a great week. Bye.